Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time!
3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ayler's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU. America. They got a football team now.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, glad to have you along on this Friday. Glad that it's Friday as well. Hope everyone had a great week and that you're ready for the weekend as we're heading into a big sports weekend. Of course, the Indianapolis 500 on Sunday, as well as Game 3 of the Pacers Eastern Conference Finals Series with the Knicks, which Game 2 takes place tonight. So a lot to get to on that as well. Alec Lasley will join us. We'll talk some recruiting for IU basketball. Zach Osterman, as well as Todd, Leary. And hey, you know what? We never talked about the PGA last weekend. What a great event that was as well. So we'll talk about all of that. Straight seeding into CFP next year. Yep, that finally became a reality. The difference that would have made this year, and it would have made a difference. It would have made a difference in who teams played, who Indiana played. They would have played at home. So it would have changed a lot of things and made things different. But, you know, it is what it is. It happened. And so you just got to get back there and do it again. And you live and you learn. The thing is, it normally and usually takes forever for changes like that to happen. I mean, think back. It would take forever for just smart ideas to come into play. And they were smart enough to recognize that was a failed part of the system and changed it. And I'm happy to see that. It's common sense, and we all would wonder before why this didn't happen when things were needed to be changed. Back when you had the BCS system and all that, like, well, it'll take 4 years to change this because we're under contract and yada, yada. Change it. If it's for the better for everybody, change it. And this is something that is and was so, and it got changed. So happy to see that happen. So good to see that common sense prevails. Indiana, one of those teams that is looking to get back to the CFP this year. In addition to several teams on Indiana's schedule. Starting with Illinois, Iowa, Oregon, Penn State. You've got 4 teams on that schedule that will be fighting. I know Iowa is not one that is set up by a lot of people, but you just wait. I'm telling you, I think that they're going to be a team to look out for, because of adding a quarterback that is different than what they've had before, one that can throw the ball. Anybody can hand the ball off. They've got a guy that can actually throw the ball successfully now. So we'll see how that works. The NCAA baseball tournament bubble coming up as well. Indiana not going to make it as they lost to Rutgers, I believe, in the Big Ten tournament, which in essence just ended their season because they can't move on, even though it's a double elimination tournament. So Indiana will not be making the NCAA tournament this year in baseball. They'll be watching from the sideline. It ends their run at 2 straight appearances there in the NCAA tournament, unfortunately for them. But there's always next year. Who's going to be the top 3? Michigan football to battle Ohio State, Penn State for a top 3 prospect from New Jersey. So all those guys are going at it against each other, which is no surprise. Well, what's Michigan going to be like? They're not on Indiana's schedule, fortunately. So nor is Ohio State. Indiana gets a relief from that. But you're never going to have a quote-unquote easy schedule, I believe, in the Big Ten, because there are just too many teams now that there are going to be good teams. Now, Indiana has a pretty decent schedule, except for the fact that all 3 of the hardest games 3 of the 4 toughest games on the schedule are on the road. So that makes their schedule extraordinarily a difficult one. So there will be no questions, as I've said it before, no questions that their schedule is going to withstand. Tyrone says Yahoo Sports believes Mendoza is quarterback 1 going into the season. Well, I don't think that was ever a question. There's no one else to step in front of him. He's absolutely quarterback QB1 for Indiana. I mean, that's we talk about all the time how he's the guy. I'm not sure that that's not even ever been a question who's going to be starting. But hey, it is Friday, man. It is Friday, and it's a good thing. It's a good looking Friday out there, but not exactly perfect with the temperatures down. Hello, Hank. Hank always wants some airtime. What is the it's going to be a cool weekend. I do know that. And right now, according to my information, this morning was down in the 40s. Holy smokes, in May. And the high for today on this May day, 68 degrees. Yeah, could bump up to 70. But what a chilly time. And looking at those temperatures. Sunday, the temperatures for Indianapolis, a high of 69. And I've talked about that keeping the track, that affects the track temperature, and all of that will affect speeds. And when it's hotter, it makes it slicker. They're going to get more grip. So, and more grip means more speeds. Going to be an interesting race on Sunday at Indianapolis, no matter what. And then Sunday evening, of course, you've got the NASCAR race as well that will be going on. Plus, of course, Game 3 of the NBA Eastern Conference Finals. Don't forget. Jason says he wonders why Caitlin Clark always seems to start issues and then is the first one to walk away. Good player, but what a fake person. Not sure what that's about. I don't follow what's going on there, to be honest with you. But is there a new one happening? I'm not sure of that. But the producer making life hard on us here at the studio, producer Hank. But he may get put into the producers building here soon. But looking forward to a fun open weekend. Relaxing, a lot of things to do. And then, of course, coming up, let's see, we're a week away from the event down at Huber's in Borden, Indiana, down in Starlight, where both basketball and football coaches will be down. We'll get to talk to them, as well as some we usually don't get to talk to any players there, although they're there. We'll talk to them, off just, hey, how are you? Just meet them and this, that, and the other thing. But other than that, and if you're getting to go to Huber's, you're a lucky one because that thing will be filled as usual. And it's a great event. Looking forward to that as well. Hey, don't forget to support our sponsors as well. Great ones like Hard Truth. Located in Nashville, their main Hard Truth distillery located over in Nashville. What a great place to stop by and visit and enjoy the 325 acres of beauty, tours of food, of Hard Truth, and everything else as we bring you the Hard Truth, and they help us do so. And great people like Cheryl Sizemore, the greatest realtor in the world. Reach out to her, Cheryl Sizemore Sells at gmail.com. Appreciate her. She is I can tell you from personal experience how great of a job Cheryl does and always will do. Carb Day. Happy Carb Day. That's right. Cheryl said it. Cheryl said it. Happy Carb Day. So you've got that going on as well today. So much happening. We'll get to it. Lots more coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells at gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Friday. I hope everyone is doing well and having had a good week. Now heading into the weekend, hope you've got some good plans. Don't want to forget and acknowledge the passing of Jim Irsay yesterday, the longtime owner of the Indianapolis Colts, the Irsay family, a longtime owner of the Colts, and just what all the things that he did for the community. He was very community oriented. He really loved the city. He did a lot. He had some of his issues, but hey, he cared about the city. He cared about the team. He cared about his players. He seemed to be a player's owner, and it's just sad when you see that. And now you hope that things can continue in that same manner. As far as the great relationship between the Colts and not only the city of Indianapolis, but the state of Indiana. Their fans are great. They love their team, and they've supported the Colts And that's partly because of all that he gave back, man, all of those events that he would put on. So yeah, just sad to see that. And at just 65, not that old. So very, very sad. And hopefully we'll continue to see a great relationship between the Colts and the state. But moving on, like I said, the Indiana Hoosiers doing a lot of work, man. As far as recruiting, getting out and getting after it, they have made offers to a lot of different players out there, and will continue to do so as the latest buzz on the top recruits with multiple commitments are approaching. So some of those towards Indiana, some not. Florida is the team to beat for this is actually in football related here, but Georgia continues to set the pace for in-state targets. Missouri is working hard to keep some guys. Florida is working on Stanford, Oklahoma, Florida State, Auburn, Rutgers in the pole position for a 4-star offensive lineman. So even Rutgers is out recruiting hard and getting after it. So Indiana has already kind of set things on how they their roster, their guys. So it's going to be interesting to see. I fully expect Indiana, like I've said over and over, to have a very successful season. Right now, there's a piece on a post-spring position preview of the wide receivers. One of the areas where Indiana is really set. They have a pretty good depth there. You've got Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper Jr., E.J. Williams, Charles Becker. They did lose Miles Price, Keyshawn Williams, Miles Cross, Addison Colby, and Tyler Morris due to injury. So they had a lot of losses, but they added Mekhi Jackson, Jonathan Brady, Davion Chandler, LeBron Bond, and Miles Kendrick. 3 of those are incoming freshmen, though. But Jonathan Brady, a Cal transfer who is very familiar with Fernando Mendoza, a Cal transfer, in addition to Mekhi Jackson, App State transfer. And I love App State. Guys that come from App State seem to do well. It is just a great football program. It's for their level, man. They're always competitive, always. So looking forward to that. Surratt, of course, will be one of the top targets for Fernando Mendoza, but he's going to have plenty of other guys to throw to. Omar Cooper Jr. was obviously a big target last year, but you've got E.J. Williams and Mekhi Jackson, Charlie Becker, who are going to step up as well. And you've got a group of running backs that can catch the ball out of the backfield now. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that. That's some of the differences I expect to see in this offense. Just a little more variation. That's will add it. They'll be able to add in a few wrinkles that open it up a little bit, that make it a little more challenging for defenses to defend. And in addition to that, the offensive line is going to be better. So the running game should be better. And when all of those little things are a little bit better, it makes everything else better. And it opens up more opportunities, which I expect to see. I expect to see that happen for these guys. So looking forward to this. It's been a while. We're still a ways off from the college football season starting, but it'll be here quite before you know it. It always is, isn't it? So, but go to the Hoosier.com on 3, and there is a ton of stuff in there right now about that. Not only that, and much more, as top 50 in basketball side, top 150 recruit Sammy Jackson discusses his Final Four schools and sets a commitment date. And of those 4 schools, you've got Texas, St. Joe's, VCU, and Indiana. So just by looking at that, I would think that Indiana stands a pretty good shot there. But you can't break that on everything. But on Indiana, he says, with Indiana, I've been talking to Coach Rod Clark and Coach DeVries. I have a visit scheduled in June. They started reaching out a couple of weeks ago, and we've been building a great relationship with them. I'm looking forward to the visit. I'm excited to go on campus, see the players, coaches, and workouts. So this is a guy that they've got coming in who is one of the top players in the Northeast, and he's the number 1 ranked player out of Pennsylvania. Number 1. That's Philadelphia. That's Pittsburgh. That's a lot right there. You're number 1. If you were just number 1 in Philly, that would say a lot. But he's a 6'7" wing. Yeah, get used to that. You're going to see a lot of that. Indiana is going to be built on players like that. They currently are right now. But the 6'7" wing out of Roman Catholic High School in Philadelphia has decided to narrow his list of schools down to 4, and in no particular order, I gave those to you. But he plans to announce his college commitment on June 25th. So he's not going into the season. He's not waiting until after the season. That'll be coming up. So that'll be very, very interesting. And it'll be interesting to see if Indiana can land a guy like this now and what that does to the future of the recruiting. Does that help start the parade? Because we've all seen and we know how that momentum can get things started. And this could be a momentum starter for Indiana and Darren DeVries on the recruiting side. This is a big time recruit, and the fact that it's coming out of the East, out of Philadelphia, that would be a huge get for Indiana alone. But the sheer fact that he's got his schools down to places that are away from there, with the one exception of St. Joe's, which they're the hometown school. He says he has a great relationship with Billy Lang and Coach Thomas Boyle and the rest of their staff. They're local, so they've been out to see me more than the others. I've been up there and I've seen their campus a lot. He has an official visit coming up with them soon. But I when you compare visits to Indiana and Texas, it's not going to come down to the visit. I mean, St. Joe's would just be because it's close if he were to pick them, which I would imagine that's a long shot from an NIL standpoint. There's no way St. Joe's nor VCU can compete with Indiana and Texas on the NIL side. So if this went beyond Indiana and Texas, I'll be surprised. And it'll show that, hey, it's not all about NIL. But we'll find out. That's just one guy that Indiana is chasing. So we'll see how that goes. But does that start a little momentum for Indiana on the recruiting side? So we shall see. Plenty of other big-time nice articles in the Hoosier.com right now. And I haven't talked a lot about the TBT and the fact that Race Thompson is going to be playing for Assembly Ball as well. You know, he'd been working. I know that every time I had seen him, he was working to recover to come back from a pretty good injury. But now he's going to be playing for the TBT, Indiana Assembly Ball TBT team, which they are loading up, people. You know, for not having a team for the first decade of this tournament and everybody wanting that to happen. And then finally it did. Last season, they had their first go in this, and now this year's their second run, but they're loading up. You have got 3 guys already. Well, it's at least, let's see. They have Yogi Ferrell and Troy Williams that have both played in the NBA. You've got James Blackman Jr. that has played professionally. Now you're adding Race Thompson. This is going to be a pretty daggone good team Indiana is putting together, and one that I think fans are really going to want to go out and see. And the reason that's important is because there is a deal that gives home court advantage to teams once you get to a certain level judged on who sells the most tickets. So they'll be playing up at Hinkle Fieldhouse at the Hinkle Regional, the Indianapolis Regional, whatever they call it. But this team, man, they're loading up for bear. I'm telling you. And it'll be a fun team to watch. Troy Williams, James Blackman, Yogi Ferrell. Are you kidding me? Holy smokes. I mean, that's a little bit of an all-star team right there. That should put Indiana in pretty daggone good position. And, there's money to be had. It's $1 million take all for the winner. And you split that, I don't know, 10 ways, however many ways. They don't have a lot of guys on those teams. So not a bad payday if you can get it. So hopefully they can get to that. And it'll be fun to watch. That takes place later on in the summer. I think that happens in July, late July. I don't see. Yeah, there we go. The winners of the Indianapolis Regional will advance to the TBT's quarterfinals, which happened on July 28th. The regional at Hinkle Fieldhouse is July 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And so get your tickets now before they're gone. But it's a great venue on top of that. You get to see this in a tremendous venue. So a lot of fun, a lot of opportunity for sports fans around here coming up. Still, like right now with Indianapolis, with the 500, with the Pacers. Then following that, you'll have TBT, all kinds of stuff going on all the time. So Troy claimed he was playing last year. Hope his Achilles is better, according to 5. Yeah, well, maybe that's what probably that'll keep you out of anything, man. And Achilles is a scary thing. So Derek said he's glad to see they changed the seating for the CFP. Thinks it wasn't that way last year, or you would have hosted. Yeah, it would have changed things. It would have changed the entire. I wonder. I do wonder what would have happened, because Indiana would have played Boise State at home at Memorial Stadium. I think they win that game, move on to the second round. How does that change things? Seriously, matchups matter so much in sports. It would have completely altered the tournament. I don't know who ends up. I'm not saying Ohio State doesn't win it, but I'm saying it may not have been Notre Dame that they were playing. Notre Dame would have played Clemson to start off. Different, completely different. And it would have been very interesting to see how that played out. So we'll have to wait and see. But now you'll get your shot. It doesn't matter. Wherever you're seated, you're seated. You don't have to worry. And if you can get in that top 8, then you're going to be hosting a game. And now, can Indiana get into the top 8 again? It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But the thing is, I think that if they're in contention, they're going to be in contention with a much better resume this season than last season. Even though I think that they would have I think that they would be 10-2. The only way that they're going to be in contention is with a record of 10-2 or better. And even at 10-2, they will have a better resume than they did last season, in my opinion, because of that one means they have a road win over a substantial team. So we'll see what happens. That's why they play the games, let the season play out. We'll find out how it goes. But I'm very confident this team is going to be a better team than they were last year. Like I said, the schedule's just tougher. And but I'm jacked for football, people. I'm ready. I'm ready to cover a team that I know is going to have a successful season. It's just how successful will the season be? That's a great thought. Now, of course, you've got to keep people healthy. You've got to keep the quarterback healthy. That's all with all of those caveats. You've got to keep guys healthy. You can't have substantial losses on the offensive line, or you can't have a substantial loss on the defensive side. So caveats to this. With all things being equal, this is a team that is going to compete, I think, anywhere within upwards of the top 5. I don't know that they're not a team that's going to compete well with the top 5 teams just yet. But I think outside of that, why not? Why not? They had a defense that was one of the best in the country last year. They had an offense that was one of the best in the country last year. Not many teams have both of those. That's a difference maker, a huge difference maker, because a lot of teams are built so well on one side of the ball, not quite as well on the other. But the best teams are built well on both. Indiana had that last year. And there's no reason they won't have it this year. And I think that they will. They're solid on both sides. They're all-Americans set on the defensive side. And although it's there's some new faces on the offense, they've only been great additions. So I think that that's going to be a fun one to wait and see how that goes as well. Got to take a break from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Make sure you're getting out. Support our sponsors. What a great weekend to go to Hard Truth over in Nashville. Stop in, visit, take a tour, have a meal, partake in some Hard Truth, or just buy it and take it home. But we're back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Glad to have you along on this Friday, and happy that it's a Friday. Means we're heading into the weekend. Looking forward to that. Recently, a lot of guys decided to withdraw their names from the NBA draft. And those decisions will impact college basketball, no doubt. None of those will impact Indiana or Purdue, but it will impact teams that were already good, like Houston. Milos Uzan, the point guard,
He entered the NBA draft following the Cougars' run to the national title game and was considered a second-round pick and likely to keep his name in the draft, but he struggled at the combine in Chicago, finishing with 9 points on just 3 of 12 shooting in 2 scrimmages, and he wasn't in ESPN's Combine mock draft. So while Kelvin Sampson prepared for Uzan's departure by signing a top 25 recruit in Kingston Flemings and Creighton transfer Pop Isaacs, the Cougars would have 3 starters from a team that won 35 games and reached the championship game if Uzan returns, putting them squarely in the conversation for preseason number 1. So I'm not sure that he has or not. But Yaxel Lindenberg, a power forward at Michigan, did some great things at the combine, entering with a first-round draft projection. But if he has a 7'4" wingspan, he measured at 6'10" in shoes, which I like how they mention that now, because that means that you're basically 6'9", but when you're in shoes, you're 6'10", which is true because that's what you play. You generally don't play barefooted. But he's a UAB transfer. He did say he wants to be drafted inside the top 20, though it's unclear if that means he needs a top 20 guarantee to remain in the draft. So it'll be interesting to see if he should return to Ann Arbor. It would give Dusty May. I already think Michigan's going to win the Big Ten. I've said that a number of times. This would make them a top 5 team in the country if he were to return. So will affect the Wolverines prepared for his possible NBA decision, but they brought in Morez Johnson from Illinois, who I guess Illinois must have lost him because of NIL or because of the fact that Brad Underwood brought in the Avicic brother. Not sure why, but Michigan also brought in Ade Mera from UCLA. Now, that's another thing. I hate seeing in-conference transfers. And here are 2 of them. Michigan picked up Morez Johnson Jr. from Illinois, who was a contributor until he got hurt, and Ade Mera from UCLA. Both of them are in-conference transfers. I hate to see that happen. But what are you gonna do? 5 says Mbako killed it at the combine, but is he staying in the draft? That'll be a question. Florida, Alex Condon. Man, Boogie Fland committed, of course. We had that happen the other day while K-Bro was on the air with us, and he had to jump off to go cover that. But now Boogie Fland committed to Florida, and they still a starting 5 of Fland, Condon, Xavier Lee, Thomas Hugh, and Ruben Chinlu would be elite for the defending national champions. They're going to be looked at as, I don't know if they'll be a number 1 team or just in the top 5, but if he comes back, I don't know how you don't make them number 1. I don't understand all this love for Purdue. I just don't. And it's not an anti-Purdue feeling. It's this starting 3 core of Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer and Trey Kaufman-Wren are so solid in the conference. I get that. But none of them are NBA elite players. People keep thinking that I don't see Braden Smith as an NBA player. I'm sorry. He's 6 foot. He is not the fastest guy on the floor. And we've seen those guys get shut down by solid guard defenders. And I'm not getting this crazy love. These players that we're talking about here, these are all NBA players. Potential players. Not a single Purdue guy went into the combine just to get the information. I find that interesting. Why not just go find out what they have to say about you? I think it's now next season they won't have a choice, or after next season they won't have a choice if their plans are to go to the NBA. But I think part of it is because they don't want, maybe it's that you don't want to hear what the inevitable is coming. So, but I was talking about other teams earlier that have guys that have gone to the combine. Kentucky's Otega Owe, he's a shooting guard, under the impression that ultimately would return to Lexington, but he scored in double figures in each of the combine scrimmages and said he was going through the process as if I'm all in. With that said, he still isn't projected to be picked despite the solid showing in Chicago. So he would be wise to come back, but Mark Pope is going to have to wait. He added 10 new players this offseason. Kentucky has added 10 new players this offseason. So, all the talk about Indiana having to do that and all this stuff, they're not alone, man. Kentucky didn't have a coaching change and still added 10 new players. That's an entire team. I mean, I know it's not an entire allowable roster size, but that's a team. That's 2 rotations of 5. So they've added an entire new team. That's a lot. But they also are bringing back a second-team All-SEC performer in Owe, potentially. He would push the Wildcats into a preseason top 10. Without him, Pope will have to rely more heavily on newcomers, 5-star freshman Jasper Johnson and transfers Denzel Aberdeen, who came from Florida, and Cam Williams from Tulane. Surprised to see Florida lose some guys. They obviously lost Sam Alexis to Indiana as well. Guys that didn't get to play a lot, and Florida is still going to be good. So you got that going for them. And I'll tell you who else has built a little, I don't want to call him a little powerhouse, but who built it right at the beginning. Of course, he had all that chicken money. But your boy, John Calipari, down at Arkansas, Calipari released a social media video with a breakdown of the Razorbacks' upcoming roster. He referenced Carter Knox testing the NBA draft waters, and there was a mention of Thero, who had entered the draft but showed no indication of a possible return, while Knox was surprisingly 50-50 when asked about his stay or go decision at the combine. Thero raised some eyebrows by saying the door is not completely shut on a return. Thero is number 34 in NBA's ESPN's mock draft, while Knox isn't projected to be drafted. Both returning to Fayetteville would give Calipari incredible lineup versatility, and even just one of them returning would likely be enough to put Arkansas in the preseason top 10. So a lot of teams that are going to be in this mix. There is no number one. I mean, they can list somebody at number one, but I when you have players of this caliber, I think of Trey Kaufman-Renn, or I think of Braden Smith. They don't have that kind of impact that I see these guys players. Although their numbers do, I mean, you have to acknowledge Braden Smith's numbers. I mean, he scores and he dishes the ball out. He is a great assist man for not only is he a great assist guy for Purdue, he scores a lot. I mean, he is the heart of their team. Don't make any difference. But yeah, they just seem to be a great conference team. But we'll see how it rolls. That's why they play the games. That is why they play the games. I was so lucky to have on Fran Fraschilla yesterday. Man, what a great conversation that was. And I love having guys like Fran on who are so knowledgeable about what's happening. And we had a deep conversation about the foreign players that are coming and that are going to impact college basketball. Brett Underwood at Illinois has already done a masterful job. He didn't have to go far. He already had one Ivisic brother, and then he just went out and brought the other one in addition to the son of Stojakovic, and yet another. It's going to be fun watching people talk about or call Illinois games next year. Ivisic to Stojakovic. I mean, it's going to sound like they're calling a Serbian game, Serbian national game, because there will be very few quote unquote non-foreign names that are being talked about. So there's that. Dusty Banner says he thinks there's too much money at stake to play games like holding back. I'm not sure what that is in reference to, but yeah, preach on, baby. Preach on. But does Indiana have to, dipping into the European market would have been a way to help, but I'm not sure that guy was there, the guy they needed. They have what they need. The only question is, are they going to be okay in the paint? Is Sam Alexis and Josh Harris and Reed Bailey, are they going to be enough to protect the rim, to get the rebounds that are needed offensively as well as defensively? Are they going to be enough to defend? There are going to be teams, but you're not going to run into teams that have guys that are just posted up down low. I don't believe. I very, very rarely. And Purdue won't. And if they even bring one of those guys in, I don't expect them to have much of an effect on things. So how will the Big Ten be next year? You're going to have a lot of teams with so many different styles. Mentioned Illinois. Maryland wiped out. Coach, players, how are they going to respond? Michigan State, it's very quiet. Things are very quiet about Michigan State, and that's very unusual. Tom Izzo always comes back with something, but it's been very quiet. Michigan, they're my team to win the Big Ten. I truly believe that. Look what Dusty May did in his first year there. Came out swinging, had a team put together, a team worthy of winning a Big Ten championship, although they didn't, but they did win the Big Ten tournament title. They're going to come out swinging this year. And for me, I think Michigan is going to be the team to beat in the Big Ten. It is not going to be Purdue, although Purdue is going to be up there. How can they not be? They've added a great piece, a foreign piece. They added a foreign piece as well. I love what Matt Painter's done. He added what he needed. Added just what he needed, and he has the players to run what he wants to run, how he wants to run it. That's what a coach wants. Purdue has Jacobson. He's a big dude. He is definitely a big dude. But Russell says he thinks that there has been an upgrade on coaching in the Big Ten. Well, it's definitely going to be different. Yeah, we're going to have such a huge, huge difference at Iowa. Iowa, a team that that would normally score point in the 80s routinely, but also allow their opponents to score in the 80s. That's not going to be the case. Those games are now going to be in the 50s, maybe the 60s, if depending upon whom they're playing. But you've got Ben McCollum, who many thought was going to land in Indiana, wound up there in Iowa. Well, man, I cannot thank you enough as that wraps it up for this hour. We've got lots more coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, and we're back with it after this.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Hey, welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Friday. Great to have you along. Looking forward to talking to Zach Osterman here in just a little bit from the Indy Star. I hope your week has gone well and you've got a great plan for the weekend. Looks like it's going to be okay out there. A little chilly, though, man, a little chilly. But Indianapolis 500 on Sunday, in addition to Game 3 of the NBA's Pacers Eastern Conference Finals. But Game 2 tonight, don't forget, man, the Pacers now have stolen home court advantage by winning that Game 1 in New York. A stunner, as Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joining us here in so, Jack, how are you doing, my friend?
Hey, how are you doing? Sorry, I've been having camera issues this week, and then I had email issues this morning. Anyway, I'm sorry I'm late.
Oh, it's no worries. I'm sure a lot of people preferred I had camera issues a lot of the time. Unfortunately, mine is working and they can see me. But obviously, I was just talking about the Indianapolis 500. We've got that on Sunday. But in addition to that, you've got Game 3 of the Pacers. But Game 2 tonight, as these Eastern Conference Finals will be coming at us at a rapid pace with a game every other day. And wow, I know that it's not your beat, but it's just from an Indianapolis standpoint, great to see them steal that Game 1 in another unbelievable game.
Yeah, I mean, I turned it off. It's not my beat, and I'm obviously not like a Pacers fan or anything, and so I just kind of cut it off. Moved on to other things. Was kind of circling toward bed, and then somewhere along the way, I realized it had gotten closer, so I turned it back on, and that last shot was in the territory of like even getting my wife to watch it, and she obviously doesn't care very much about sports at all. So, this team is, listen, you obviously wonder if this team is just playing with fire too many times. But the flip side to that is I don't know if there's a more sort of battle-hardened team left in these playoffs, especially because, over in the West, you've got couple of teams that have got some really, really good young players, but there is the youth element there. The Knicks have obviously been in the playoffs. I think they got bounced in the second round, maybe the first round, second round, the last couple of years. The Pacers are arguably as experienced in this setting on this stage as anybody left in the playoffs, and that counts for a lot this time of year.
Yeah, and it has been fun to watch these guys. They while they're still very young, they've got the experience of last season behind them. So just fun to watch that, and I look forward to talking to Dustin on Monday to see how these next two games go. But Indiana basketball has been out on the recruiting trail, man. I mean, they have been getting after it, Zach, with offers to guys in the 26 and 27 class, out visiting, out watching, out talking to them. So a little bit of a contrast in recruiting now, as Darren DeVries is making a personal attempt to get out and talk to these guys, and it's having an impact, at least apparently so far. Haven't gotten the recruits because none of them have committed just yet, but there is definitely a difference from a visual standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, listen, also the staff is obviously playing catch up, at this point. And you would imagine maybe there are some pre-existing relationships with some of these players, for maybe an assistant who recruited him somewhere else. But the reality is, in terms of Indiana and selling the idea of Indiana, this group is kind of starting from zero. And the calendar has obviously changed a little bit from where it was, maybe 5 years ago, certainly 10 years ago, in terms of, the spring is now so dominated by the portal and dominated by just kind of the question of your roster, what it looks like going into the off season, and what you can kind of do with it in April and May. But this is the time when, I think comfortably, because of the evaluation windows in May, it's easy to forget, but there are evaluation windows in June because of the way the NCAA's changed the visit structure. So athletes can take official visits in the summer now. And then obviously another evaluation window in July. This is much more often now when you're really going to focus on high school recruiting. And, as you said, I think it's important for DeVries and for his staff, to have that presence and to kind of, be seen, I guess, for lack of a better term, in those settings. But this is also just kind of the point in the calendar when it's natural for this to kind of be the focus for Indiana. And then obviously in probably less than 2 weeks, DeVries' team will start showing up, and it'll be in Bloomington where probably his greatest focus is trained.
Yeah, and he's put together a team that that we're going to be very interested to see how it performs, because it's definitely also a different style of team that we're going, a different offense, a different defense that we're going to see on the court next year. But they're going to be a team that is built on wings for smaller, built a little smaller than normal, but guys that are also maybe a little more athletic. Sam Alexis, Josh Harris, and I know Reed Bailey as well. But those other two, Sam and Josh, are going to spend a lot of time around the rim defensively. So it's going to be a little different than what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I mean, it even more fundamentally than that, and this is, something I've come back to a lot just since DeVries hiring is his teams historically don't play through the post a lot. And so, listen, it became a criticism of Mike Woodson's offense, that it would start through post ups and it would play through the post. I mean, listen, some of Tom Crean's best offenses played through the post. Nobody was really complaining about Mike Woodson's offense when it was playing through Trace Jackson Davis in the post. The reality is that is a perfectly, functional, acceptable way to play offense. It just has to work, and it didn't for Indiana. Now DeVries comes in, he's talked about his offenses are a lot more motion, concept based. That doesn't mean it's the old motion offense. It doesn't mean it's, some of the blocker mover style stuff we saw Archie Miller running a few years ago. But it does mean that you're talking, listen, every time I watch film, every time I hear DeVries talk about his offense, every time I talk to somebody about DeVries' offense, I think of Creighton, and that's a lazy comparison, but that is what I think of, just, an offense that is just constantly moving the ball, constantly moving bodies, constantly hunting shots for players who can take and make different kinds of shots. And an offense like that isn't going to post the ball up very much. And so an offense like that is going to ask something very different of its bigs. I have been skeptical of the idea, for example, that Reed Bailey will play the 5. And there are some ways in which I'm still a little bit skeptical of it, just given his defensive profile. But I think I can at least understand how you get there. Again, and this is all on film. This is all in theory. We haven't seen 1 minute of this team together dribbling a ball in anger because it hasn't happened yet. But, again, it's just a very different emphasis. It's a very different way of going about creating offense. And I think, from DeVries' perspective, if he can pull these pieces together, I know the tour has kind of been confirmed now in terms of where they're going. He told me and Mike Neislick weeks ago that they would be taking a foreign tour. If that process and that experience can really lend itself to this group gelling, then we're going to see, at very least, a team that goes about trying to score the ball differently. And maybe it's better, maybe it's worse, but it will certainly be different. And that's where, while I think, it's fair to still say, would this team be better for a Kalel Ware? Well, what team wouldn't be better for a Kalel Ware? He was on the all-rookie team in the NBA this year. But that's where I at least sort of reserve some of my roster judgments until I see it in practice, because I recognize that there is a part of me that is just kind of stuck on looking at Indiana's roster based on what I've seen the last few years, when I need to recognize that I need to see what DeVries does with his roster before I kind of fully buy into what looks different.
Yeah, I agree that I don't know that there will truly be a 5. I know someone technically will be playing it, but I don't know that it's really that Indiana truly has a 5. They may have a 4.5, but with the way this offense is going to run now, defensively, you kind of are put into that position, and someone definitely has to play it. Offensively, I don't know. I think that it's going to be to have the variety enough that there's not technically, what we consider the old-fashioned 5.
I think that's fair, and I think you hit on something there, which I think is where a lot of my, if I'm even observing this team as kind of a neutral, a lot of my questions come, which is it's more at the defensive end. I don't think you've got players like Sam Alexis, Reed Bailey, Josh Harris that, can have proven an ability to be efficient offensively. And, in Bailey's case in particular, and to a certain extent Harris's as well, obviously he's only got the 1 year in college and it was at a lower level, but there's also at least some proof of concept of being good at volume offensively. And with the shooters and the scorers that Indiana's got at other positions, Tucker DeVries, Lamar Wilkerson, Dayton Connerway, Nick Dorn, et cetera, you probably don't need those guys to be overly, sort of volume offense for you. But on the other side of the ball, that's where I just still kind of look at, do you have enough? Can you protect the rim well enough? Can you rebound well enough? Now, if you can score the ball a lot more efficiently than Indiana has been doing in the last few years, the last couple of years, I should say. I shouldn't say few, the last couple of years, then, you can allow for a little bit less defensive sort of solidity in certain areas. And I know this is kind of a bad word among Indiana fans, but the pack line defense is also kind of created to solve some of these issues. The idea of the pack line is to create a defense that is more structurally sound as a whole than any of its component parts, that you don't have to be elite defensively in all 5 spots to be a good defensive team. And again, I know Indiana fans don't love the pack line, but listen, Archie Miller never finished worse than 65th in adjusted efficiency defensively. In his last 3 years, he finished 32nd, 26th, and 43rd in Indiana in adjusted defensive efficiency. The problem was he never finished better than 65th in adjusted offensive efficiency. His teams just could not score. And so what you had was, and this is maybe where the conversation becomes a little bit more relevant to DeVries, going back to the idea of, well, if you're more efficient offensively, then you don't have to be quite so efficient defensively. Part of what wound up looking so bad for those Archie Miller teams defensively was they struggled so badly to score the ball that they stressed their defense, that every defensive mistake was magnified because you knew how much of a chore scoring the ball would be at the other end. It's easier to see this I think in a sport like football or baseball, where we more cleanly kind of break the idea of offense and defense. But think about like a baseball team that can't hit and the stress that puts on even a good pitching staff. And so after a while, that pitching staff starts to kind of break down because the pressure, the injuries, the stress mounts. Well, that's kind of what happened to some of those Indiana teams, but the pack line itself wasn't necessarily the problem. And I think it can be a bit of an equalizer for some of the concerns that we're both talking about here defensively, if and only if Indiana can shoot and score the ball at a level that puts pressure on opponents and makes life a little bit easier for Indiana defensively.
That's a great point, Zach, and something I think a lot of people don't think about, but it is a great point. And this team, I think, has potentially, but we'll have to wait and see, but I think they have the answers offensively. Tucker DeVries, a known commodity. We'll have to wait to see how the rest of these guys gel. But I've had a couple of them on the show, and one of the things they did talk about, and something you mentioned a minute ago, is them bonding and them getting together. They're going to Puerto Rico. They mentioned, that trip. One of them mentioned, getting together and how bonding as a team and how important that was. And I don't know that we realize or put enough importance on that for a team, because now all these guys are all new every year. I was just talking about Kentucky. They got 10 new guys again. So you have guys that have not played with each other. Hell, most of the time they haven't even met each other. They don't know them. So you've got to come together quickly and gel as a team. And going to Puerto Rico is one of those things that they'll be trying to do. But they have got to put their their games together. And that's not as easy as I think people think, because when you play together for a while, you understand a guy's moves, you understand his thinking both ways. And that's going to be a big thing for this team as they move forward.
No, I mean, that's fair. Like that's totally fair. And I think as much as the games are important, I think every coach would argue that the 10 full practices that you get in the summer, when normally your summer workouts are limited by how many hours you can work on the court in a week and how many coaches can be involved in a time and how many players can be on the court at the same time with coaches, etc. You take the summer tour, you get 10 full practices, no holds barred, no, it can only be this kind of work, or there can only be 4 players per coach or whatever. Everybody on the floor working. That's where I think you really start to build a lot of that chemistry you're talking about. The one thing that I do think is a little bit different, and I don't, maybe this matters, maybe it doesn't. There's every chance that this is, a reporter trying, to kind of pull a little too hard, trying to reach for something and make, just sort of make an observation that's not quite there or not quite relevant. But I would point out that when you look at particularly the older guys on this roster, this will be Sam Alexis's 3rd school. This will be Tatum Connerway's, if you include JUCO, I think his 4th school. This will be Tucker DeVries' 3rd school. This will be Connor Enright's 3rd school. I think Lamar Wilkerson spent his whole career up to this Sam Houston State. Maybe there was a prep year or something in there that I'm forgetting. But we are in a position now where more and more players are becoming comfortable, or at least experienced with the idea of, moving from one program to the next. And that means that sort of the process of absorbing, new methods, new playing styles, new calls, new tweaks, new coverages, new adjustments, a different coach's preference in a certain situation. That stuff is probably becoming a little bit more familiar to a lot of these players, if that makes any sense. That stuff is probably becoming more, sort of, I don't want to say old hat, because listen, these kids still have limited college careers, but that stuff is that sort of experience is becoming a lot more common. That's probably the best way to put it in college sports and in college basketball. And so it doesn't necessarily make the job that much easier, but I think there are at least ways in which, when Darren DeVries is calling guys together and saying, we got to figure out how to do this. We got to figure out how to do this. Well, some of these guys there are a number of these guys that have figured that out before somewhere else. And so maybe it won't be quite so overwhelming to them. There is obviously also the bonding aspect to it, the chemistry aspect that you talked about a little bit. And that's where I think a foreign tour helps as well. When I talked to DeVries about the foreign tour back in March, and he didn't know where they were going at the time, but he said then, and I don't have the exact quote right in front of me, basically, we're going to be a brand new team. This tour is going to be less about like bells and whistles and more about just going somewhere that the team can spend time together, going somewhere that like the team can just be together and spend a lot of time with each other, because we need to build that. We need to build those relationships and build that chemistry. And, I think his point was maybe a little bit like, if we go to Europe and there's so much to do that, we're constantly touring someplace or turning them loose in the city or whatever, then maybe we don't accomplish all of that kind of bonding and all of that, collective sort of togetherness. But but if we go, and I guess I'm speaking in Darren DeVries' voice here, forgive me, but if we go somewhere that is a little bit more just oriented toward the team, and this is why I wondered if they go to the Bahamas, and San Juan probably will be a similar experience, then essentially what Indiana gets out of it is much more internally focused rather than, sort of selling the experience, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Zach, what's up next for you, man?
Honestly, just taking some time off. I mean, you know, the
good for you. Good for you.
We know about the Huber trip, or the Huber swing next week, and that's always. I always tell people that feels a lot like kind of the natural sort of turning of the page. It's obviously not the end of the academic year, but it always feels like sort of the start of the new athletic year, because typically most, if not all, IU sports are shut down by that point. You might still have a baseball in the NCAA tournament or something like that, but that'll be about the extent of it. And what we're talking to the coaches who are there, and you know, sometimes the AD speaks as well, is constantly forward looking, is when are your players getting here? You know, what are your keys for summer workouts? What are your thoughts for next season, et cetera? So Huber always feels like kind of the moment when the calendar resets. And then, you know, as you and I both know, the summer always goes a lot faster than you want it to, in terms of, you know, you'll do a Zoom here, you'll see a workout there, you'll write a feature story there, and then suddenly, boom, it's Big Ten Media Days in July and the summer's over. So
absolutely.
It's just trying to take a little time off, trying to soak in the off season, and we'll be back at it again before too long.
Yeah, we'll be down at Huber's next Wednesday, and quickly, Rick Bozich, of course, whom we both know, he pointed out something great. He said, "Who's going to be the not maybe featured, but the last speaker?" Because that had always been the basketball coach, because you know, Indiana is a basketball school, but that has changed. And Kurt Cignetti is such a dynamic speaker. Who's going to be the last speaker at Huber's? Is it going to be Cignetti, or is it going to be DeVries?
That'll be interesting. I mean, that will be that will be interesting. You know, but it's, I mean, there's probably going to be as much sort of joint excitement for those two programs as any Huber that I've covered, because you got a new coach with, I think, a really exciting roster and a lot of potential for the coming season. And then obviously on the football side, we know what Indiana football did last year. And it's not like Indiana's never taken some optimism to Huber before, but you know, the idea of going down there at quite this level, especially because I'd point out there was no Huber in 2020, which is when you would have been riding that wave of the Gator Bowl season under Tom Allen. So no, it'll be very interesting.
Absolutely. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Make sure you're giving him a follow, keeping up with all of his great content. We appreciate you as always, my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. Zach Osterman again from the Indy Star. Hey, we've got more coming up. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com on 3 joins us next. We'll talk basketball, football, whatever you want to talk. We're back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios after these messages.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming, or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC. Local lives here.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Oh, welcome back. Thought we had another spot to go there, but I guess not. I'll have to take care of that in the editing stage. Welcome aboard, Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com on 3. How's it going, man?
Good, Jim. How you doing?
Well, a little bit better other than that last break there, but everything else is going well as we head into we're in the spring, ending the spring season for a lot of things. Indiana baseball season coming to a close. And now we're going into the summer. Indy 500 this weekend. The Pacers going on. A lot of fun things happening in Indianapolis. And, of course, in June, all the players will be the new players coming in for reporting to school for football and basketball, for that matter. But basketball specifically, these guys coming together. Was just talking about that with Zach Osterman from Indy Star. These guys have – most of them never met. I'm sure they speak because they're on a text deal, but I don't know how much that they've even conversed together. So they have to come together. And how difficult is that? We talk about that, but there's so many other teams that go through the same thing. Kentucky bringing in 10 new players this year. Last year, Louisville with 13 new players and had a good season. So it's not like this is an achievable impediment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of the new age of college basketball specifically, right? I mean, you always get in college football the large recruiting classes because that's just what the roster size is. But with basketball, right? I mean, over the last, probably 3 years, you're starting to get a lot more of the, 6-person, 7-person, 8-person classes that come in. And a lot of them are obviously from the transfer portal. So it's a lot of not only learning a new school, learning a new area, but also obviously learning new teammates, new coaches, and in a entirely new environment. So it's probably a good step forward here in the next couple of weeks because they're going to be getting on campus. Most of them will be there the first week of June. Be obviously able to kind of finally learn each other, right? I mean, talking with a few of the guys outside of potentially playing each other once or twice throughout their college careers, right? They haven't really passed each other a lot because a lot of these guys aren't from around the same area and a lot of them aren't in the same class. So you're not really getting a huge crossover from AAU. A lot of these guys also played at the mid-major level, so you're not getting a lot of overarching kind of consistency in terms of what their schedule looked like. Obviously, I remember Sam Alexis when I was talking with him, he mentioned obviously playing Josiah Miles a few times and Josh Harris being in North Florida and then obviously in Florida last year. But, outside of that, they don't have a lot of, true relationships yet. I think the only 2 guys who have been able to kind of fully connect in person up to this point are Lamar Wilkerson and Tayton Conaway. They've been working out together out in Las Vegas and out west for, what seems like the last kind of couple of weeks here. But they've been spending a lot of time together. But outside of them, right, it's going to be a full go 0 to 100 really quick when they get on campus in a couple of weeks, and obviously go full-fledged into off-season workouts, and then get into what's obviously a very important, very fun, but a significant trip, obviously, to Puerto Rico later to kind of wrap up the summertime.
Alec Lasley, the managing editor for thehoosier.com with us. And the thing that I think of as well is with this offense, a motion style offense, it's something that is probably a little more difficult to learn than the average offense because of the moving parts, because of the constant job you're asked to do something constantly, something different, and it's reads. You have to make reads and you have to make the right decisions. So it's an offense that realistically takes time to make it better. So, but that's something that they don't really have.
Yeah, but it's so two parts to that, right? It's an easier offense once you know each other than a very structured,
which is
system.
a catch-22 for this.
Correct. Exactly. But obviously, it's going to take a little bit to really get to know each other on the court, because obviously that's a vastly different, sort of relationship than it is off the court. You need to learn, obviously, what players' tendencies are, right? Are they, better off catching with their left hand versus their right? Are they better off on the left side of the floor versus the right? Are they better in a pick and pop situation versus pick and roll, or anything as it relates to what's probably going to be obviously a heavy dose of ball screen action and dribble handoff and kind of weave action on the perimeter. So it's going to be a lot of learning and probably a lot of trial and error in the first couple of months before they really fully understand, okay, if I'm going down the right side of the floor, who is going to be kind of the best option for me when I'm looking, whether it's a cross court pass or even just a rim runner, whether that's Josh Harris, Sam Alexis. Well, is Reed Bailey going to be the guy who's trailing, and where is he best fit to catch the ball, right? So it's not only going to be a lot of learning from the player's perspective, but obviously the coaches are going to have to learn what kind of roster this is. Obviously they have a good sense of what skill sets they have, but you're never going to fully know until not only you get on the floor together, but more importantly when you actually start playing some other teams. So that's why we mentioned it a few times now, but these international trips are just so pivotal for a new coach, yes, but obviously an entirely new roster that's never been together before, because you get the extra time together off the floor, but you actually get more time together on the floor as well, because you get about an extra week of practice in that otherwise would be a theoretical kind of dead period in that sense. And then obviously you get a couple of games against much different competition than what you're going to be used to going up against for about 8 weeks until they get to that point. So it's a fun summer probably for them to really start to get into the nitty gritty details, right? Because we've been talking about these guys for what seems like forever now, albeit only about 8 weeks, and there's just now so much lead up and build up into the first week of June when a lot of these guys do get on campus, when they start obviously putting in the work to get there to still what's a ways away for that first week in November.
One of the things that I am surprised by, and I know a lot of fans are, is that there was not anyone brought in that was kind of name recognizable. Yesterday we see Florida pull in a big time player this late in the process, which adds to what they're bringing back. But yet Indiana brought in an entire roster of guys that no one was familiar with. And I'm just surprised that there was not at least one known commodity, I guess you say. I don't know if that was done with purpose to keep this on an even keel kind of a thing, or that it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, probably a little bit of both, right? I mean, this, this coaching staff and specifically Darren DeVries, has really preached what Kurt Cignetti has preached, and that's production over potential, and being able to find the culture fit first, and then make sure that obviously their skill set fits. But if the culture is not going to be a fit, then he's not going to go after that player, right? So that already probably eliminates not half the pool, but a good chunk of what that transfer portal really is, because not everyone's going to be a perfect fit, whether they whether it's off the court or whether it's just on the court personality. So you start there, and then after that, obviously it's about how does this specific skill set fit into my system. And you already knew kind of what you had with Tucker DeVries, Trent Sicily, albeit Trent Sicily is probably not going to play a huge role this year, but you at least had those two pieces. You got Connor Enright really quickly off the bat, so you have the culture setting pieces with Connor Enright and Tucker DeVries, obviously two guys who have played together before, played under Darren DeVries' system and in that scheme. So you felt pretty good about what you had as kind of a backbone from a leadership and culture perspective. Obviously, you go out and get a really talented player in Lamar Wilkerson right away, which really kind of set the stage for kind of finding the couple additional pieces that would fit around a kind of superstar mid-major guy like Wilkerson. So, they've been able to really pinpoint specific skill sets and specific culture fits that have now worked together, at least from on paper, right? Because we haven't seen these guys together on the court yet, but on paper, fit together, I think, much better than what the last couple roster constructions have looked like with the previous staff, right? That seemed to go out, get, some big flashy names, some guys who have, produced, but maybe not been extremely efficient or productive from a very consistent standpoint, and try to put them together and see what fits, right? But that obviously, has not worked out over the past couple of years. And so it's been a massive change in that mindset from what this coaching staff is doing now. And it's something that you look around the country, right? And a lot of the teams, take away maybe the Dukes, obviously, and potentially, right, the Kentuckys of the old days. But Kentucky last year, right, Louisville last year, they went out and got a lot of mid-major guys or a lot of high major guys who really, maybe have produced, but haven't been, quote unquote, right, the sexy names out there that, all the true kind of blue bloods would be going after, the 15 to 20 point per game guys at a high major level. And they've put together phenomenal rosters. And obviously we saw what they were able to do in year one, and obviously Mark Pope and Pat Kelsey. But, you look at what Houston's been able to do over the last 5-6 years, right? Almost a very consistent Elite Eight team over the last couple of years. And that's because, they bring in very specific culture fits and very specific skill sets that will be able to work together. And obviously, that system has been in place for 2 decades almost with Kelvin Sampson, but it's the same sort of mindset that Darren DeVries has had, and it's the same system that has worked over the past 5-6 years, even back when he was at Drake. I mean, winning 25 games multiple times when he was at Drake. That's hard to do, and that's by getting the pieces that fit together and fit in your system, and then obviously being able to do it at West Virginia last year, which was a roster that, take away Tucker DeVries after the first 8 games, that was not a very, high talent level roster that he was working with, and being able to still theoretically put them in the NCAA tournament. There was a lot of obviously talk that West Virginia should have been in, but albeit still 1 spot, 2 spots out of the tournament field with a roster that probably was nowhere near a tournament team middle portion of the season. So he has it figured out. He has that blueprint. He has the consistency of being able to do it at numerous stops now. So I think you have to trust him, and you just have to understand that it's just an entirely different mindset of what Indiana fans have been used to over the last 4 years.
And I don't think people have an understanding of the challenges this staff has faced, because in addition to putting together a staff, they had to put together a team. And then as soon as that was done, they hit the road hard in recruiting for the future. And I've been impressed with the relationships they have been able. Now, obviously, the guys that were brought in on the staff probably had some relationships or the ability to do this, but they have put together a group of offers already to guys that, while we've seen this before, there's a different feel to this. There is a feeling of the coaches having somewhat relationships with these guys, of them actually reaching out and being in front of them, talking to them, having communication with them. And you can, at least to me, it's a different feeling of future recruiting for the Hoosier basketball program.
Oh, it 100% is, right? I mean, you look at also what the previous 2 staffs have done, going back to the Archie Miller era, where I think you probably make the realization that he didn't offer enough kids, and was very limited in his search. And that obviously came to backfire because if you miss out on one or two players, right, you don't have a large pool to go after. Whereas, Mike Woodson, I think they went out and offered a ton of kids, had a lot of potential prospects there that they were able to get on campus numerous times. Right? I don't think they ever struggled to get prospects on campus, but they didn't have the relationships because they cast such a wide net, and they didn't really narrow down, outside of that 2024 recruiting class, right, where you had really the core kind of 4 guys potentially there, but super deep in with Derek Queen, obviously Liam McNeely, and then Boogie Flan. But outside of those, you really didn't get the sense that Indiana was really in deep with a lot of recruitments with the previous staff. And so with this staff, you're getting the relationships right off the bat, right? Rod Clark has spent numerous years at the AAU level. Kenny Johnson, obviously coming from the AAU level just 3 years ago, I think, right? So you have the relationships there with a lot of these big time AAU programs where they've been able to build these relationships now with kids who are coming up in the 2026 and 2027 classes. But that's where it starts. Then it's all about being able to show that you're fully invested from a head coaching perspective, right? And I think that's one thing that, talking with a lot of these kids so far who've been getting offers, right? It starts, yes, with the assistant coach relationship that gets them in the door and gets these kids really interested in Indiana. But every single player that I've talked to, whether it's been, from the transfer portal or from these 2026 or even 2027 offers right now, the main thing that they've been talking about when it comes to Darren DeVries is how genuine he is, down to earth he is, and how much he is just not a basic guy, but he's just such a down to earth normal person, and they're able to make a connection right away with him that way. But
meat and potatoes.
Exactly.
Someone, I forget who it was that was on yesterday,
Fran.
described him as
Fran,
meat and potatoes guy. Fran, there you go.
Yeah, and that's exactly what, talking with a lot of the recruits, that's the first thing that comes out of their mouth. And it's one thing to hear it from one or two guys. It's also one thing to hear it from these high schoolers who maybe not, have gone through a recruiting process before, but to hear it from, 4th, 5th year, 6th year guys at the college level who may be on their 3rd team or their kind of 3rd or 4th recruiting process, right? Who's
heard all the stuff from all the different people.
Exactly. And have gone through it now with, maybe before NIL was a big thing, before the transfer portal blew up, right? Getting a lot of different recruiting pitches. That's the first thing that comes out of their mouth when it comes to Darren DeVries. So not only is he getting involved early on in these recruitments, but he's making it known that, hey, this is what I'm looking for. I'm going to be very transparent with you. But at the same time, if this is not what you're looking for, then do not come here and don't, basically don't waste our time, because I'm not going to waste your time with any of these conversations. And it's getting, we, outside of, Ryan Conwell and Josh Dix at the early part of the transfer portal, every kid that visited committed, right? You did not have a kid who visited from the transfer portal leave and not commit, right? So that just shows you not only the legwork that they did early on in that process, but then also once they were able to get these kids on campus, the closing ability that this staff has had. And I think that's a welcome sight after what's obviously, gone on the recruiting trail for quite some time for the last 8 years.
Alec Lasley, managing editor for thehoosier.com and on 3 with us right now. We'll talk some football in a minute. We're also asking, how does he join thehoosier.com and on 3? Alec, it's very easy. Tell him.
Yeah, just go to thehoosier.com. I can drop a link in the chat as well. But a subscribe button just for $1 for your first month, and then 50% off the rest of the first year. So super easy. Super quick, and you get everything from thehoosier.com and obviously the entire On3 network as well.
Which is a ton of information constantly coming from guys like Steve Wiltfong or
Chad Simmons or Andy Staples on the football side of things, Jamie Shaw, Joe Tipton on the basketball side. Those guys break stories every day. That's where the stories are being broken. Hey, Alec Lasley, managing editor for the Hoosier.com with us. We'll take a quick break, come back, and we'll talk some football as never have we been able to go into a season with the confidence of what a team is going to be like for Indiana, like we are this year. 2021 was a false wall, man, but this is not that. We've got lots more coming up. We're back with it from the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing, or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition, or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemooreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios on this Friday. I hope you're getting ready to head out to have a great weekend. And but we're going to send you off on your way first. And again, if you're interested, just go to thehoosier.com. It's just type that in. It'll pop right up for you. Thehoosier.com with on 3. And once it pulls up the site there, you'll see a subscribe area on the front page there. Alec Lasley, managing editor, with us now. And as I look there, I see a piece by national writer Steve Wiltfong talking. I talk a lot about how Indiana has to take over the recruiting battle for the state of Indiana because Purdue had taken that. They were getting the better recruits over Indiana for a while. Well, that has quickly changed. Indiana has taken that back over between those two schools. And one of the guys coming up is Kobe Cherry from Greenwood. Last name very familiar for a reason. He is the brother of quarterback Tyler Cherry. But Kobe is a defensive lineman, a 6'5", 285-pounder. That's a high school defensive lineman. I mean, I want nothing to do with that. Not very few high school offenses, Alec, have a guy that can go up against a 6'5", 280, and he's probably one of a couple on that team. But these are the kind of recruits in Indiana now. Obviously, probably, I hesitate to say they're in the lead for, but his final 3 schools, Purdue, Wisconsin, and Indiana, those other 2 schools not trending in a great direction. Indiana not only trending upward, which he cites, but the offensive line, an area that they continue, or the defensive line is something that is always in need of great players.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're coming off of, I guess it was over the weekend, right, where Gabe Hill, 4-star defensive lineman, also committed outside of Illinois. You've been able to land obviously what's been a phenomenal 2026 recruiting class up to this point, but pretty much in the span of about 2 weeks, they were able to land 7 commitments. Blake Smythe, obviously another defensive lineman as well. So Rodney White, I believe. So there's 3 defensive linemen already in the fold. If you're able to get another really talented one, and obviously Kobe Cherry, that's a great way to kind of get this defensive line group really fully ready to rock and roll before the summer, before you really have to kind of hone in on your key targets here before obviously the early signing period in a couple of months. But Indiana's been able to do a phenomenal job with the state, and that just shows you what a winning season does, but more importantly, what a culture setting season does, right? I mean, the ability to transform this program in 12 months has been, I think, one of the, we talk about on the basketball side, right, what Mark Pope and Pat Kelsey did, but what Kurt Cignetti did was, equally as better, if not equally as good, if not better.
And 10 times more difficult.
Exactly, because when you throw in the history of Indiana football, vastly different than what you're.
I was just thinking about the numbers, how much more difficult. Didn't even include the history.
Yeah, and so I mean, you look at what Kurt Cignetti's been able to do, and they're really this entire staff, but locking down the state of Indiana and still being able to go out and really lock down a lot of the Midwest, right? They're now not just beating out the Purdue's and the Rutgers or mid majors for these recruits, right? They're going into SEC country or going into to backyards and beating out SEC programs. They're beating out the top of the top for the Big Ten, right? They beat out Penn State, Michigan State, Wisconsin already for numerous other targets. Beating out Tennessee, Texas A&M, LSU, guys that typically would not even look Indiana's way, whether they're in state or not. But now, not only looking Indiana's way, having them in final fives, top threes, making decisions coming down to the wire when Indiana is not only involved but heavily involved, and getting these kids on campus early, getting them on campus often, and doing a phenomenal job building that early stage in the relationship. And Zach Browning's done a great job looking at a lot of the early 2027 and even 2028 guys that are top in the state and top in the Midwest. And Indiana's already either offering these kids early, they're building these relationships early, and there's getting these kids on campus quite early to really set the foundation for that recruitment. So you can't really look at what the staff is doing and say they've done anything poorly up to this point.
No, they've set the bar very high and continue to reach it and try to exceed it, no doubt. Joe says he's surprised how poorly Luke Fickell has done at Wisconsin. Well, I'll be honest with you. I think Luke Fickell tried to put a Luke Fickell on Wisconsin, and Wisconsin is what they are, and that change made it very difficult. But we'll see, because Wisconsin on Indiana's home schedule this season, so we'll get an opportunity to see that. What's up next for you and the Hoosier.com?
Yeah, so taking a deep dive into some of the enrollees here in the summer. Obviously, Indiana football has done a great job getting a lot of these kids on campus during the spring here. But still have a whole group of guys that are going to be fresh into the program. So we'll be taking a look, kind of a deep dive into to all the enrollees this summer, breaking down what they'll bring to the program, and then starting to do a deep dive into a lot of the previews for a lot of the basketball guys who are obviously going to be starting to show up on campus here in a couple of weeks.
Well, I hope everybody out there will sing a happy birthday wish to Alec. Obviously, he has a big birthday coming up this weekend. What are you turning, 18 or 21 or something? Just kidding.
Yeah, 21. The big 3-0. My birthday is actually on the 500, so I'll be I'll be at the Speedway enjoying myself for the big 30th birthday.
Well, enjoy it, my friend. I appreciate you very much. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com, get yourself signed up because you're missing out if not. Alec, appreciate you, brother. Happy birthday to you.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
You bet. Hey, a happy weekend to everybody else. Go out, enjoy it. It's a holiday weekend. We won't be here on Monday for the holiday. Let's go Pacers. They've got a game tonight, game on Sunday, Indy 500 on Sunday as well. Enjoy it. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks to Zach Osterman as well for joining us today. Go out, enjoy yourselves until Tuesday. I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.